Joining us now on the line from Denver, Colorado, Nicholas Carr. He is the author of The Shallows, What the Internet is Doing to Our Brains. He's also a finalist for the 2011 Pulitzer Prize. Before we get to all of the modern applications of the Internet, after the spoken word, how did other advancements affect, in your view, how we saw our world?
Well, I think you can trace the influence of technology and tools on the way human beings think all the way back to, for instance, the map. You suddenly have an abstract representation of space, a picture of space. This technology changed the way people think. It gave us, in general, a more abstract mind. And you see something similar, I think, much later with the invention of the mechanical clock. And you get a more scientific way of thinking introduced to the human mind. We suddenly pay a lot more attention to measuring things precisely and to cause and effect. So every time we have one of these new, what I call intellectual technologies that come along and change the way we gather information or the way we look at the world or the way we communicate with each other, we also see, either subtly or fairly dramatically, a change in the way we think.
Most people like to point to the printing press as one of the most revolutionary developments there.
But the printing press made the printed page, the book, and other forms of printed writing popular. And as that happened, as more and more people sat down and read books, it in effect trained them to be more attentive thinkers. And so to me, the printing press is a great example of how a technology can change the way we think, and in this case, make us more attentive, even more contemplative thinkers. If the printed page filtered out distractions, screened us from interruptions, and encouraged attentive thought, the Internet does exactly the opposite. It bombards us with distractions. And that, that's its great quality as a technology. But the downside of that is it keeps us pretty much in a perpetual state of distraction, constant interruptions. And as a result, I think it encourages in us and in society as a whole a more superficial way of thinking. The more we use the web, the more we use computers, we tend to strengthen certain visual skills, our ability to keep track of lots of images moving across a screen. But by short-circuiting those more attentive ways of thought, I think you also lose things like deep conceptual thinking, or at least hamper it in deep critical thinking and even deep creative thinking.
Now that we live in an internet age, are we really able to take all that information and multitask effectively?
Well, the short answer is no. But the science is pretty clear that actually when we multitask, what we're really doing is shifting our attention very, very quickly among different things. People who do a whole lot of multitasking, they begin to lose their ability to distinguish important information from trivia. What becomes important to them is simply getting new information. It doesn't matter whether it's good information or bad, just that experience of getting something new begins to be the overriding goal in their intellectual lives. When we spend all our time shifting our focus, multitasking, juggling lots of information, we do lose some important qualities of thinking that require attention. These information feeds are cumulative. So you're not only, monitoring what one website is giving you, you're also monitoring your Facebook page and your friends' updates and your Twitter stream and your text messages and your email. And as these things accumulate, you really have no time to be alone with your thoughts and to think deeply about one thing. It's a good thing that we have sources of information that lie outside of our own brain and that we can call on very quickly. But there's a fundamental flaw in this idea, and it's becoming a common idea, that, we don't have to remember anything anymore because we can just Google it. The problem with that is that these external websites and external databases are not the same as human memory. What happens when we actually remember something is that we connect that information with the other facts we know, with the experiences we've had, with the emotions we've felt, and it's those connections that give richness and distinctiveness to our thinking and even to our personality, I think. So when we begin to rely on these external technologies as in effect a replacement for memory, we're actually kind of reducing the depth of our thought. There's increasing pressure on us to be constantly connected in our work lives, in our social lives, and so forth. So I think beyond just exerting more personal discipline, you have to begin changing the signals that schools and employers and governments and institutions give, and begin to say, you know, it's okay to be disconnected sometimes. It's okay to think deeply and quietly sometimes.